Think your worst day is torture? Maybe you spilled your drink, your phone died, traffic trapped you for hours. Annoying, sure, but imagine a machine built to tear your arms out of their sockets or roast you alive, while people laugh and cheer. Welcome to the medieval world, where torture was not only punishment, but a twisted art made to destroy both body and mind. Today, we're diving into some of the most terrifying devices humans ever created. Tools designed to make you scream, confess, and break in every possible way. One of them was so cruel it could make even the strongest person beg for death. Which one would you regret facing the most? Stay with me, and let's see if you can handle the horror. First, the rack. Picture a wooden frame that looks like a bed built by someone who hates humanity. Your wrists and ankles are tied with ropes, and a crank begins to turn. Slowly, your body stretches. Muscles tear like old cloth. Joints snap like dry branches. Sometimes your shoulders pop out with a loud, wet sound. Used across Europe for crimes like heresy or even just talking back. It became the favorite tool for forcing confessions. In 1533, an English monk named John Frith was stretched like this for denying the Pope's power. His screams echoed through the Tower of London for hours before they burned him. You stay awake for all of it, feeling every rip while the man turning the wheel chats about daily life. Think of your hardest gym stretch, then add a sadist with a lever. And the worst part, they didn't always stop when you passed out. They waited for you to wake up, and then cranked again. Bones didn't just move out of place. They were ripped from their sockets. Some victims were stretched so far they actually grew taller, but left crippled forever if they lived. Tendons snapped like guitar strings, and your spine felt like it was coming apart thread by thread. This wasn't just torture. It was a slow mechanical breaking of the human body. And all because you said something someone powerful didn't like. You didn't just confess. You begged to. Next comes the Iron Maiden. Imagine a human-sized metal coffin standing upright, cold and silent. Inside its doors are sharp spikes waiting for you. The moment the door slams shut, those spikes stab into your arms, legs, and sides, not deep enough to kill you fast, but just enough to make you bleed slowly while trapped in a steel embrace. Used during the Spanish Inquisition against people labeled as heretics, it became a symbol of fear. Many say it was more legend than common tool, but in Nuremberg during the 1500s, real bodies were found inside one. You're locked in darkness, every breath forcing the spikes a little deeper. You know death is close, but not close enough. There's no room to move, no way to ease the pain. The walls press in, and your screams bounce back into your own ears, muffled by heavy iron. Picture being stuck in a crushing trash compactor line with blades. Suddenly, a crowded elevator feels like paradise. The spikes weren't placed randomly. They were carefully arranged to avoid your heart and vital organs. That way, you suffered longer, bleeding slowly and painfully. Sometimes they left victims inside for hours or even days, checking every so often to see how much agony they could endure. The mental torture was just as cruel. Total darkness. No sound except your own shaking breath. No hope of escape. Your body trembles, pierced by cold steel, while your mind breaks under fear and isolation. You're trapped, alone, unable to scream loud enough for anyone to hear. It wasn't just death. It was a performance of suffering. And once the door closed, no one opened it until the silence finally arrived. The Judas cradle takes the cruelty even further. Picture a wooden pyramid with a sharp point on top, mounted on a stool. You're stripped naked, tied up, and slowly lowered onto that point. Gravity becomes your enemy as your own weight drives the sharp tip into the most sensitive parts of your body. Used in the 1600s, especially in Italy, it targeted people accused of witchcraft or blasphemy. It wasn't just pain, it was humiliation and punishment blended together. In 1599, a woman in Venice endured this for hours, finally confessing to witchcraft just to make it stop. The worst part wasn't only the agony. Your body was exposed in front of a crowd, everyone staring, laughing, and mocking while you suffered. Imagine your most embarrassing doctor visit. Then replace the chair with a spike designed to tear you apart. Suddenly, an uncomfortable seat feels like luxury. And hygiene? It didn't exist. The pyramid was reused again and again, never washed. So infection became another layer of torture. Each inch you sank down meant another scream, another rip, another chance for disease to take hold later. This wasn't just a punishment. It was a public show meant to break your spirit. You weren't just hurting, you were being displayed. Some victims didn't die from the device itself. They survived, permanently damaged, serving as living warnings to others. Gravity did the work, pulling you down bit by bit, turning your dignity to dust long before your body gave out. Now we come to the pear of anguish. It looks harmless at first, a metal object shaped like a pear. But once it's inserted into someone's mouth, throat, or other places, the real nightmare begins. A screw is turned, and the device slowly opens, spreading wider and wider. Flesh tears, bones crack, and breathing becomes nearly impossible. Used in France on people accused of blasphemy or adultery, it became a favorite tool for torturers who wanted maximum pain with little effort. In 1633, a French thief had his jaw shattered by one. His screams were muffled, only broken gasps escaping as the device forced his mouth wider. Imagine sitting in a dentist's chair, but instead of tools to fix your teeth, they use a metal pear that blooms like a cruel flower inside you. There's no escape, no position that eases the pain. Every turn of the screw means a new level of suffering. At first there's only pressure, then sharp pain, then pure destruction. And once it was in place, mercy disappeared. Trying to scream only made things worse. Muscles tore, bones split, and the device could leave you disfigured forever if it didn't kill you. Sometimes it was used simply to send a message. You spoke out, you sinned. Now open wide and pay the price. It was silent, small, and devastating. No loud machines, no blood splattering at first, just slow, creeping agony that built with every twist. A single key could turn your insides into shredded pieces. Next time someone offers you fruit, be grateful it doesn't come with a screw hidden inside. The breaking wheel turned torture into a public show. You're tied to a large wooden wheel, arms and legs spread, completely helpless. Then a heavy hammer crashes down, smashing your bones one by one while a crowd cheers like they're at a festival. After the beating, the wheel is lifted up so everyone can watch you slowly die over hours or even days, as birds and insects pick at your torn flesh. Used as punishment for crimes like murder or rebellion, it was a crowd favorite in parts of Europe. Some of the men involved in the failed plot against King James I in 1605 were punished this way. Their bodies destroyed piece by piece, and they didn't swing randomly. The torturer followed a pattern, breaking ankles, shins, thighs, and arms in a carefully planned order. The goal wasn't to kill you fast. It was to take you apart step by step, turning your body into a twisted wreck while people placed bets on how long you would survive. Imagine being the main attraction at a concert, except the music is your own screams, and the encore is your final breath. Sometimes they bent your broken limbs through the spokes of the wheel afterward, leaving you hanging like a gruesome sculpture. No doctor, no water, no help, just sun, wind, and hungry birds turning your last hours into slow decay. The crowd drank, ate, and laughed like it was a holiday, treating you as entertainment instead of a human being. In that moment, you weren't a person anymore. You were a spectacle, a warning, and a source of amusement. The wheel didn't just break your body, it erased your dignity, leaving you to die in the open while strangers celebrated your suffering. The scavenger's daughter was the cruel opposite of the rack. Instead of pulling you apart, it crushed you inward. This metal frame folded your body into a tight ball, forcing your knees to your chest while your head was shoved down. Once the device snapped shut, the pressure became unbearable. Invented during the rule of Henry VIII, it was used on political prisoners who were seen as threats. In 1581, a man named Thomas Mayag was tortured with it. Blood poured from his nose and ears as his body was squeezed like a broken toy. At first glance, the device didn't look terrifying. It was just a hinged metal frame. But once you were locked inside, the real horror began. Your spine bent, ribs pushed inward, and your lungs struggled for space. Breathing felt like trying to inhale through a straw while someone sat on your chest. Imagine being stuffed into a suitcase that wants to crush you. Suddenly, a cramped airplane seat sounds like heaven. Some victims passed out from the pressure alone. Others stayed awake, trapped in a body that felt like it was collapsing. Veins swelled, organs were squeezed, and bones snapped inward instead of outward. You could drown in your own blood as it filled your chest and throat. There was no room for the body to function. Every second felt like your insides were being squeezed until something finally gave way. The rack stretched you. The scavenger's daughter folded you until you broke from the inside. A silent, crushing nightmare that turned the body against itself, leaving victims shattered without a single outward cut. It was a deadly hug made of iron, and once it closed, there was no escape. Saw torture was one of the most brutal methods ever used. You're hung upside down, legs in the air, head pointed toward the ground. Then two men take a long saw and begin cutting right between your legs. The reason they hang you upside down is terrifying blood rushes to your head, keeping you awake longer. You feel every slice, every vibration, every tooth of the saw grinding through your body. Used in the Roman Empire on rebels and deserters, it was slow, messy, and designed to keep you conscious for as long as possible. The mental torture was just as awful. You could see the saw moving closer and closer before it touched you. No escape, no chance to look away. Imagine your worst workout, then add a giant saw and a cheering crowd. You get a head rush, but not the kind you want. they didn't hurry. The torturers moved the saw slowly on purpose, avoiding major arteries at first so you wouldn't bleed out too fast. The blade chewed through muscle, nerves, and bone while you swung helplessly, screaming and bleeding, but still alive. You heard every scrape of metal, felt every pull, your spine shaking with each cut. Sometimes they stopped mid-cut just to ask questions, taunt you, or let the fear build. This wasn't just execution, it was a performance. A twisted show for onlookers who came to watch someone be taken apart piece by piece. Your final moment was a slow slide from groin to stomach, until silence finally came. The saw didn't just kill. It turned your last minutes into a drawn-out nightmare where pain, fear, and humiliation blended together. The thumb screw may look small, but it delivered pure agony. It was a tiny metal vise that crushed fingers or toes one slow turn at a time. Used across Europe for crimes like theft or lying. It was often the opening act before worse torture. In 1590, during a Scottish witch trial, thumbscrews crushed victims' hands so badly they couldn't even hold a quill to sign their forced confessions. The real horror wasn't only the pain, it was the torturer staring into your eyes, waiting for the exact moment you broke. One wrong twist and bones shattered like glass. Fingernails ripped off, skin split, nerves burned. Suddenly, your worst paper cut feels like nothing. Then there was rat torture. A nightmare that turned nature into a weapon. A cage full of hungry rats was strapped to your stomach or chest, and a fire heated the other end. Desperate to escape the heat, the rats dug into your body, clawing and chewing their way through flesh. In the Netherlands during the 1500s, rebels faced this fate, their screams drawing crowds. Every bite was a reminder that you were being eaten alive. Your body shook, the cage rattled, and there was no way to stop it. The rats didn't kill quickly. They burrowed through soft tissue, avoiding bone, keeping you conscious as terror took over. The flaying knife went even further. This curved blade wasn't made to kill fast, it was made to peel skin layer by layer, while your heart still beat. In 1307, a French knight named Pierre de Ramy was skinned alive for betraying the crown. His removed skin was nailed to a wall as a warning. Watching strips of your own flesh fall away like cheese shavings was a horror beyond pain. That tiny cut you cried about last week. Compared to this, it's a lullaby at first glance. The heretic's fork looked simple, a metal rod with two sharp prongs at each end. But once strapped between your chin and chest, it became torture. If you nodded, swallowed, or even flinched, the spikes pierced deeper. No sleep, no rest, no movement. People wore it for days, forced to stay awake, eyes burning, muscles shaking. One prisoner in Spain lasted for days before a single sob drove the fork through his voice box. Silence wasn't a choice, it was survival. The Spanish tickler had the most misleading name of all. It was a set of iron claws that ripped through skin and muscle like hooks. Victims were chained to a wall while torturers scraped them from shoulder to waist, peeling flesh like bark from a tree. During the Spanish Inquisition, one woman was clawed for 3 days, her arms stripped to bone. The goal wasn't always confession. It was control, fear, domination. They worked slowly to keep victims alive and screaming. And finally, the brazen bull, the most dreaded device of all. Imagine a bronze statue shaped like a bull, hollow on the inside. You're locked inside, and a fire is lit beneath it. As you roast alive, your screams travel through pipes, turning into sounds like a bull's roar for the crowd. Invented in ancient Sicily by a tyrant named Phalaris, it turned torture into theater. Some say even the inventor was killed in his own creation. You weren't just dying, you were entertainment. So which torture device would you regret facing most? The brazen bull stands above the rest, not only because of the burning, but because it stripped away your humanity. Your screams became music for spectators. Your suffering became a joke. Suddenly, your worst day, burnt toast, late for work, bad WIF feels like a vacation. Still think you're tough? Medieval torture wasn't just about breaking bones. It was about breaking souls. No rights, no mercy, just you and someone with a cruel imagination. Next time life feels hard, remember you're not strapped to a wheel, eaten by rats, or roasting in a metal bowl. Which one will haunt your dreams tonight?